Hey y'all, how's it going? Okay. Funny story, if you listened to last week's podcast, I accidentally uploaded the unedited version. So I apologize. You get to hear me repeat a few things. I'm sure I made some annoying sounds. Who knows if I was yelling at my kids? You could probably hear the dog. That's just the reality that happens. Last week was a little crazy. I was trying to get to a funeral. I had a kid in the ER. There was a lot happening. Everyone's healthy and fine. We're good. We're through it. But I apologize if you got to hear the unedited version. I've gone back and corrected it. I also laughed really hard because when I record this podcast, I record the video of it as well and upload it onto YouTube. And I was dying because I was like, oh gosh, there's usually some clips I edit out of my kids coming and going, me getting up to go to the bathroom, taking drinks. Who knows? But sorry, folks, the correct one got loaded to YouTube, so you didn't get to enjoy that. I also wanted to say thanks to those of you that pointed it out. It was really helpful to me because I had no idea. I appreciate you helping me out. And you were so kind and loving and respectful in how you were telling me this and genuinely giving me the benefit of the doubt. And I just wanted to say thank you. I appreciate it. It was so helpful to have you call that out to me. I had no idea. And I appreciate the love that you were sharing along the way. So hopefully this is the edited version for you, but hey, you never know what you're going to get over here. Oh, speaking of screwing up, today we're going to talk about perfectionism and what I think is a better mindset to look at to help us get a little bit out of perfectionism, but still kind of have a high bar and not be okay with things being mediocre. Because I was looking into this and thinking about this, I've really had one of these kind of like aha moments where things really clicked for me around perfectionism, and I want to share it with you today. When we think of like the opposite of perfection, it's imperfect. And I'm like, that doesn't feel great to me either. So as I was searching and doing some research and trying to figure out like, what's another word, another way to think of things that's not perfect, but it's good, it's great. What's another way we can think about this? And I was laughing because as I was researching it, I was finding things of, if it's not perfect, but it's good, maybe you want to tell yourself it's fair, it's satisfactory, it's average. And in my head, I literally was like, wah, wah. I don't know about you, but those words aren't real exciting and motivating to me. I don't want to be average. I don't want to be satisfactory. Those don't drive me to want to push myself and do a really good job. So today I want to talk about what is that mindset that I think is even better than perfect, but still has that energy of you wanting to do your best work and do it as well as you can. But as we think about perfectionism, we all struggle with this in different ways and in different phases of our lives. And I kind of think we will as humans. It's part of our innate drive to just continue to grow and get better. But the challenge with perfectionism is it's really not attainable because it's completely made up. And there's always something that could have been different. It could have been bigger. It could have been better. It could have been faster. Like we can always find something. I dare you to think of a time where you told yourself or someone else something was completely perfect and believed every single aspect of it was. There's usually like a tiny sliver of something we found that could have been better. I joke in my previous job, a compliment, a good job, you did this really well, you did this quote unquote perfect was how could we have gone faster? Right? That was Amazon's way of saying, good job. This was a really successful thing. The other thing I find with perfectionists, and I put myself in this category because I am one at times, they are so annoying. I think of like going to someone's house and they cook this beautiful meal and it's delicious and wonderful and it's great company and you're complimenting them on the food, and whoever made the food in their perfectionist mindset says something like, oh, but there was a little too much salt in this, or this part of the meal was a little bit too cold, or the dessert didn't set up quite right. Right? They always find those little tiny nitpicky things. And I want to just like shake them and be like, no, this was great. We're having fun. Don't ruin it. They're so annoying. Perfectionist people, we over plan, we over manage, we obsess about the things we can't control. At home, this looks like when we're going on vacation or traveling somewhere, checking the weather 50 million times. Yeah, I'm going to check the weather to know what types of clothes I should pack. But guess what? The weather's going to be the weather. We can't control it. Obsessing about it isn't going to make the trip more perfect. Okay? In a work setting, this looks like having 50 million spreadsheets to double and triple check everything, to review everything, to needing just one more person to peer edit and provide feedback. It's emotionally exhausting to work with these kinds of people. And when I say these kinds of people, again, I'm putting myself right in there. Because here's the thing. I think a lot of us chase perfectionism because we're trying to get to that point of, am I good enough? But it's really a false sense of that, because the belief, am I good enough, can only come from within ourselves and our own brains and our own bodies, of us truly believing we are good enough, regardless of what's happening outside of us. Yet we chase this false sense of, am I good enough, from all of the external proof and validation we try to seek in, I did a good job, I am good enough. It's also fascinating to me what our brains do is we set such unrealistic expectations of ourselves for things to be perfect. For example, I was talking with one of my clients the other day, and he was mentioning about possibly changing careers or changing companies. And as we were talking about what the onboarding process there might look like, he said, realistically, it takes 6 months to a year for a new employee to fully be up to speed and independent and delivering at a new company. But his belief was also it should take him 3 months. And it was just fascinating because he understands logically that doesn't make any sense, but emotionally that's what he believes, is that he could actually onboard in those 3 months and be independent and productive. But when we really explored it, where we landed was it wouldn't actually be perfect, because it may be quote unquote perfect from a work setting. But if you're working crazy hours, you're eating garbage food, you're not sleeping, you're not working on your relationships outside of work, you're losing your sanity along the way because you're doing crazy things to onboard in such a short period of time, it's really not perfect. But our brain tells us we got to go. We got to optimize to that external proof. We got to get that good job, gold star, you're amazing. Okay? So if the goal isn't perfectionism, if we're not going for perfect, what are we going for? Today, I want to offer you to think of those times when you catch yourself in that perfectionist mindset, and we want to shift it to a responsible mindset. Responsible is literally able to respond. You're going to be able to deliver. You're going to be able to do those things no matter what happens outside of your control. We're not going to obsess. We're not going to overplan. We're not going to do crazy things at the expense of our sanity to have it go, quote unquote, perfect. We are going to obsess about being responsible and being able to respond in the moment, which means you're going to need to get some sleep. You're going to need to have some extracurricular activities outside of work so that you have a mental break, so that when you are at work, you can be all in and respond accordingly. Okay, but I want to give you a couple examples of what this might look like, shifting your mindset from this perfectionist mentality to a responsible mentality. Okay, so when we're in that perfectionist mindset, we obsess over control. We want to be able to control all the things. Versus a responsible mindset, we're agile, we're nimble, As my girl Brandy Carlisle sings, you got to learn how to bend before it breaks. Okay? We don't need to be in control of everything. We can be agile. We can respond. Let's look at an example. Let's say you get paged. You're on call and you get paged. Most of us that are in this scenario, there's a whole bunch of playbooks, standard operating protocols. There's processes in place for when you get paged. What do you do? If you're in that perfectionist mentality, you obsess over the process and following the process and making sure you're checking all of the boxes. Where when we're in that responsible mindset, yeah, we use the process, but it's a starting point. It's a guide. It's the architecture. It's helpful. We're not obsessed with ticking all the boxes. We're obsessed over making sure the right thing gets done. And we're able to flex according to what is needed to be done in that moment of the escalation. Okay? Responsible versus perfect. When we're in that perfectionist mindset, we obsess over how. How do you do this? What are the steps? How do you get it done? Versus a responsible mindset, we obsess over the goal. We're a little more flexible in how we get there. It's helpful to have a guide of how to get there, but we don't obsess over following it. We obsess over getting to where we want to go. Let's say, for example, you get some feedback that you need to speak up more and have more of a presence around leaders on the team. I hear this all the time from people. So many people come to me and they're like, okay, but how? How do I do this? I always kind of laugh because I'm like, you raise your hand and you open your mouth and you let sound comes out. The how is not the problem. The person in the perfectionist mindset, they're going to try to mimic it like someone else. They're going to try to follow a set rules and processes and plan. But if you're an introvert that maybe has a lot of extroverts on the team, how you quote unquote speak up and have more of a presence is going to be different than how an extrovert does it. If you're obsessed with how, you're going to try and do it in ways that aren't natural and you're going to sound dumb and it's not going to work very well. What you want is to be able to be responsible and try some things for that feedback. We're not obsessed with going to people with saying, tell me how. We're going to try a few things until we figure out how do you, as who you are and what you're comfortable with and what your strengths are, how do you have more of a presence? That's how you figure it out. You respond and try some things. We don't obsess with the how. In a perfectionist mindset, this is where micromanagers come in. Oh man, there's a lot of you out there. And I love you as humans, and you drive me insane as managers. Because you're so obsessed with the details. You need a status update a million times and in a million different ways. You want to be CC'd on every email. You take over in meetings. You want every single detail accounted for. Versus when we're in that responsible mindset, we lead people to make sure the right things are getting done and that they feel supported along the way. As we're in that leadership mindset, because we're responsible, we're able to have a plan, but we keep that goal in mind and we be very fluid on how we get there. In a perfectionist mindset, we have a very low tolerance for things not going according to plan. A responsible mindset, you are extremely resilient. This is like a classic example I would see all the time. We would have a project, we would have a plan, we'd get all the teams aligned, all the budgets, and some senior leader would come in and move up the launch date by like a month and a half, 2 months. If you're working on that project from a perfectionist mindset, you are going to freak out and run around like a crazy person. I've seen it. I've been that person. It happens. But when you are in that responsible mindset, you're going to be able to adjust, to set proper expectations with leadership of what you can deliver, changing the timeline, and move some of the requirements or some of the things to V2. It's okay. You're able to respond to those things outside of our control. A perfectionist mindset is very obsessed with the outcome in order to feel the joy, fulfillment, and happiness. Versus a responsible mindset, you're able to feel happiness and joy along the way, and you want the outcome because it's a bonus, not because you need it to feel good. Let's take, for example, maybe you're presenting at an all hands or a team meeting. And if we're in that perfectionist mindset, we need everyone to like it, everyone to pay attention, for people to tell you you did a good job, for people to make eye contact and smile and not be multitasking. Versus when you're in that responsible mindset, you're able to just have fun and kind of tease people along the way and respond to the audience based on how they're responding to you. Some of the best presentations, the best all hands, the best team meetings I've been at, I would not call them perfect at all, but the person leading was able to respond and engage with the audience in a genuine, human, fulfilling way. When we're in the perfectionist mindset, we are very much coming from a fear-based place. Again, it's the need for that external validation of, am I good enough? When we're able to shift our brain to be in that responsible mindset, we're able to feel peace and calm and open as we work to getting to that place. And we can believe we are good enough because we're trying our best. Let's say you're thinking about a career move, whether you're just kind of burnt out or you've been laid off or you've been managed out and it's not by choice. I can't tell you how many brilliant, smart, successful people have come to me in the last 2 months, completely freaking out over not knowing what they should do to go find a new job. Like, how are they going to do it? What should they do first? Where should they go? And they just feel so overwhelmed because they're so worried about making the wrong move. And what if this doesn't work out again? That perfectionist mindset is very based in fear. When you're able to come at it in that responsible, I'm able to respond, you get to go and make crap up and try all the things that you know and move as many times as you need to and keep finding new jobs until you find the one that works, because you're able to respond to all the things shifting and changing outside of you. We're not afraid of it. We like ourselves. We believe we're good enough because we are able to adjust and respond accordingly. So when you catch yourself in this perfectionist state, I want you to ask yourself, how do I want to respond and be responsible? Responsibility is the goal. Mainly, I think it's easier and so much more fun, but also it significantly increases your chances of getting where you want to go. Because we're not afraid, we're not obsessed, we're not exhausting ourselves and doing crazy things. We're able to shift and change as the things outside of us shift and change. We don't spend as much time needing to control everything and make sure it goes exactly to plan. We come up with a plan and we take action and we take more action and more action and more action until we figure it out. We're not worried about it staying on course. We go on every course we can to get there. Okay, all my responsible friends out there, you're amazing. If no one's told you this week, I see you. I appreciate you. Good job showing up. You're a good human. Keep being it. You got this. We'll talk soon. If what you're learning from this podcast is helping, this is just the beginning. Each week, I offer a limited number of coffee chats so that you and I can connect one-on-one and talk specifically about what's going on for you. You'll leave this call feeling more hopeful and motivated, but I'm also going to teach you a few things to try right away to get unstuck. Space is very limited and these are free, so grab your spot before they're gone. Click the link in the show notes or go to lindsaylymancoaching.com/chat and sign up today. You got this.